All right, everyone. If you can go ahead and make your way in, grab your seats. We are ready to get started with our first session. I know we got a lot of people getting registered, making sure they get their name tags. So excited to see you all here. Welcome to the 2025 MBBC Parent Collective. We are so excited that you are here with us in this beautiful new space. How cool was it to eat down in Heritage Hall? We are so glad that they were able to have that space at a point where we could eat down there for today. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to say welcome. We have a great day lined up for you, a day of encouraging you and equipping you as parents. That's actually our mission. That is the MBBC Collective mission. It is to equip and engage, encourage parents in their discipleship of their children to make a gospel impact. That is our mission. We have a slide to make sure that you know what our mission is going to be. Thank you so much for your presence this morning. The first question I wanted to kind of answer as we're getting settled in this morning is why do this? Why have a parenting conference at Mountain Brook Baptist? I think the easy answer is that we want to come alongside you, to partner with you in this thing called parenting. We as a church are here for you, and this is just one way that we can show you that we are here for you and that we support you in what you're doing. A couple of years ago, we were able to have our first parenting conference, and we did it down in Heritage Hall. We had a big handful of people here, and as we were thinking about the ways that we could support you, we wanted to kind of raise the bar this year. And so we asked the question, what would it look like if our community supported each other? And thus the idea of this parenting collective was born. Because really, when you think about it, we have a built-in support system here, right? We go to church together, we eat at the same restaurants, some of our kids go to the same schools. We have this support system, and we want to make sure that we are functioning together as a body, and not just leaving you out there on your own to figure out what it looks like to be a faithful follower of Jesus and a discipler of your children. And so we thought, instead of sending you to the best parenting conferences out there, whether, you go to Florida or Nashville or these other places, let's, to be with people that you'll never see again, let's throw a parenting conference here with people that you'll see every single Sunday. People that are in the trenches with you doing life as well. And so that's what the collective is all about. That's why we called it the MBBC 2025 Parent Collective. You are joining a group of people, and to that point, okay, to the point that we want you to wrestle with these ideas, today is going to include two different portions. You have our main sessions, which we'll have in here. We'll have the speaker. It'll be a traditional kind of conference feel. And then the second part is what we call our peer groups. Peer groups are just a space for you to work it out. To talk about the joys and the trials and the things that you experience as parents. We didn't want to just plan a seminar for you of 8 hours of us talking at you, giving you all these big ideas and not giving you any space to talk about it with other parents. And so that's what our peer groups are going to be about. And so hopefully when you came in, you were given one of these badges. On the back of it, it has a schedule. You also should have got a piece of paper to tell you where your peer group is meeting. So make sure that if you just kind of slipped in to this session, make sure to go by the registration table afterwards so that you can pick up your name tag so you know the schedule for the day, and then you'll also have that piece of paper so you'll know where your team is meeting. I want to talk about how our church is partnering with you in something that we're going to call the Family Discipleship Plan. This is something that our staff has been working on for a very long time, and we've refined it to a point that now we're excited to launch a brand new format of this Family Discipleship Plan. And this is just to give you as a parent a clear understanding of what Mountain Brook Baptist Church is trying to do to partner with you as a parent. We're going to talk more about that in just a little bit, but I wanted to go ahead and put the family discipleship on your radar Before we get too far into things, I do want to say thank you to the Hull family. Some of you may or may not know Dr. Hull was the theologian in residence here at Mountain Brook Baptist for a long, long time. And through the generosity of his family, we are able to put on events like this. And our concert last night, we had Sandra McCracken here to put on a concert. And these events help to enrich not just our community here at Mountain Brook Baptist, but the community of Mountain Brook and even the greater Birmingham area. So we want to make sure and say special thanks to him because of their contribution to this, their generosity. This parent conference is free to you. And so we are so excited that we were able to partner with them to do something like this. Like I said, you should have this schedule on the back of your lanyard that will help you know what we're doing. We have the layout for the day is kind of main session, peer group, main session, peer group, and then we have a closing session at the end of the day, just so you'll kind of have an idea of how this day is going to flow. Our speaker for today, his name is Andy Jung. He's come from the Fuller Youth Institute, and I'm sure he'll speak more about that and the work that they do. But I do want to say a special thank you to him and to the Fuller Youth Institute for all of the work that you guys do. They kind of look at a lot of different things, and they compile statistics and trends into helpful resources for church, for us to understand young people especially. And so our student ministry, we utilize Fuller Youth Institute things all the time, and so we couldn't be more excited to have someone here with us today. Fuller actually has a table set up in Hudson Hall across the way. So that's where our snacks and things are, over in Hudson Hall. So make sure you go by and you check out the resources that he has brought with him. And so we're excited to have them here. I'm going to introduce Dr. Splon now. Dr. Splon's going to come up. He's going to say a couple of words, and then he's going to introduce our speaker for the day. Thank you, Dr. Splon.
Good morning. I often stand on this platform and we do parent-child dedications. And when we do those parent-child dedications, there's two main parts to that. We say, all right, parents, your children are going to look to you to know what it's like to be a follower of Jesus. Are you committing yourselves to being those models? And without fail, either because you mean it or because you're in front of everybody, you say, yes, we do. And then I look to the congregation in the second part, and I usually tell the families, all right, that felt heavy. Here's the good news. All these people out here are committing to walk alongside you and help you in that role. And today, this weekend, I think will be a huge part of us leaning into that. That none of us here are capable to raise our children and to point them to the Lord in our own strength and our own ability. But we need help. And God has graciously given us the gift of the church to walk alongside each other and help each other. I was talking to Andy earlier, and I was like, I'm here not as a pastor, I'm here as a parent. I've got a 10th grader, I've got a 7th grader, I got a 1st grader. And depending on when you catch me in the day, I feel like I'm doing okay or not. Right? And so know that it's hard for everybody, and nobody's got it solved perfectly yet. But today's hopefully a step toward us walking together. And I think a lot of what you'll hear is the importance of community and church and coming alongside each other and raising our children together. I've never raised a teenager before. I'm in process. I was a teenager. I did not have the internet or a smartphone. I have no idea what it's like to grow up in that world, right? And so we're all just kind of working through this together and sharing wisdom and praying alongside each other. And so I hope today's encouragement to you. Hope you leave a little bit lighter. If you're not a better parent by the end of today, we'll give you your money back. It's like my best dad joke to start the day. And so glad that none of my kids are here to be like, rolling their eyes. Andy and I just met this morning. He lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, graduate of North Carolina State. So welcome to SEC country, Andy. Welcome to SEC country, sir. He also went to Campbell the Fighting Campbells to get his Doctor of Ministry, and has continued to pursue student ministry, both as, I would say, from the academic side and also as a practitioner in the local church. And I would echo what Joel said, that lots of the things that you hear and read from the Fuller Youth Institute is going to make us lean harder into what the role of the church is, and not just siloing our kids in different age-graded ministries, but really getting them engaged across the life of the church. And the Lord seems to be pleased to use that to help them grow in faith. If he were not here today, he'd be playing golf. It's one of his favorite passions in life. He even showed me a picture of his simulator that he has in his garage. So I said, next time you come, you got to stay longer. We'll take you to play golf. I'll take my clubs, and I play fast. And you'd beat me by a lot. So I'm going to pray for us, and then I'm going to turn it over to Andy. I invite you to pray with me. Father, we're so grateful for the gift of this day, and even just for a few moments to breathe deeply here in this sanctuary, and to be surrounded by other people who have a heart for you and have a heart for their children. And Lord, even as each of us maybe thinks about our children and the gift that they are to us, and our heart for them, and our acknowledgement of our own inadequacies to faithfully do everything that we would want to do, or to have all the wisdom or ability or skills, Lord, we take a deep breath and remember that they are more valuable to you even than they are to us. That you created them in your image, that you have redeemed many of them, that you're in the process of drawing them to faith. Others, through the Holy Spirit, as they hear the gospel and see Jesus portrayed in our lives. And so help us to entrust them to you. Help us to leave not so much concerned with tactics or strategy even, but Lord, we pray that we would lean harder into you and this community of faith that you've given us. So we pray for Andy as he speaks to us. I know he has been traveling a lot lately. So I pray that you would strengthen him, that you would fill him with your Holy Spirit, that you would recall to mind the things that you have laid upon his heart, the wisdom that you've given him, and give us open and receptive hearts to receive it. We offer this prayer in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. Thank you for thank you for taking Saturday morning and afternoon to be here. That's a big commitment from you, so thank you. I realize that is not a small ask of you all to do that. And so we're grateful that you've taken this time to grow as parents, to grow with one another, and allow God to speak this morning. There's a few things that I would want to start with. First of all, I love young people. And when I say young people, for me, it's teenagers and young adults. I feel like my passion and my call in life is to bring the two entities that I love together. It's the young people and the church. And I love the body of Christ. And to bring those two entities together, which is a challenge at times in the Big C Church, right? And I'm so grateful that Mountain Brook Baptist Church is willing to put the time and the energy and the effort and the dollars into investing in the young people of this church and in this community. So I'm so grateful for that. Secondly, if you have come wanting all the answers to what it means to be a parent today, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I'm sorry. But what I'm hoping that we will be able to do today is to get you to start thinking and maybe even ask more questions along the way. And then, of course, that you're with friends, church family, where you are going to commit to one another and to support one another and to encourage each other in this parenting journey. The third thing that I would like to say is that while I have many children that I love and care for all across the country at this point, I have not had the privilege of parenting a child of my own. My wife and I, as I said, we did not slow down enough to have children of our own. But I think what I will bring to you all today is the research and the information that we have. And so I come as an encourager. I come to you as someone who understands to a degree of what it means to be a parent, but I also understand where, from my perspective, it's a little bit different. I get to send them home with parents like you rather than take them home with me. And that's a little different, and so I've recognized that. So I want you to hear me from a perspective of I'm here to journey with you. I'm here to support and encourage you as parents and share information that hopefully will give you some tools to parent your children the way that you and the Lord think that you need to parent your children. So we don't come with any absolutes along the way here. So our first session is titled Speaking Their Language, is journeying with today's children and youth specifically. Here's the thing about research. By the way, Fuller Youth Institute is a research institute. So we research youth and young adults, and we turn that research into resources and training, books, curriculum, other helpful discussion guides and whatever it may be. And then we also develop trainings much like this that you're going to be a part of. And our goal is that we support those who invest in the lives of children and youth so that they will come to know the Lord and so that they will go out and change the world. Because we truly believe in this generation and the next generation that's to come. So speaking of generations, who are we talking about when it comes to generations? Who are we talking about? The oldest generation that we still have with us is the silent generation. So these would be our grandparents if they're still living. But then we've got the boomers we hear a lot about, right? The boomers are in that age group of being born in the 1946 to 64, somewhere in their 60s and 70s at this point. And then we've got the Gen Xers. They're often known as the forgotten generation. Nobody really cares about us that I'm in. Some of you might be in that generation also. We were the latchkey kids. We were left at home by ourselves. Nobody loves us. All that. And then the millennials, right? How many of you are millennials in this room? Yeah, thanks for ruining our world. We blame all that is wrong with the world on our millennials, and that's not true. We handed a difficult world to you. So you may be a millennial, and then we're talking today specifically about Gen Z and the ones that are coming after them. Sometimes they're known as Gen Alpha. I don't know who started to label our generations with letters, but we started with Gen X. I'm not quite sure why X, but we quickly ran out of letters. So Gen Y is actually the millennials, but millennials kind of took over instead of the Y. And then Gen Z has stuck with our teenagers and our young adults at this point. And then Gen Alpha, so we started over with the Greek letters, or sometimes they're known as the polars because they're living in such a polarized world, right? But I think Alpha is going to kind of stick for this generation. So if you have young people children at this point, they're the Gen Alphas, and then if you have teenagers, we're talking about Gen Z. And here's the thing about doing research is that research is really hard to do with kids, with children in grade school or even younger. So there's not a lot of great research that's being done. It always has to be from the perspective of the adult in the room, right? But with teenagers, you can do some research, and they will, if you ask a teenager a question, a thoughtful question, they will tell you what they think. And they will tell you what they think honestly. So a lot of our research is with teenagers and young adults. But what we will find today is that a lot of that will transition into the Gen Alpha young children. So I want you to hear it from that perspective also. So what's going on? What's going on with today's children and youth, and how are we to describe them as we know them at this point in time? All right. There are three words that we often go to when we talk about today's young people, and those three words are anxious, adaptive, and diverse. That really describe our younger generations. Anxious, adaptive, and diverse. Anxious, we know that this is one of the main things that the young people themselves will define or describe their generation. This is not words that we're putting on them, but they will describe themselves as anxious in a lot of ways. And we know so much of the statistics, but I want you to hear directly from the young people in this video that I'm going to play here.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I do feel anxious.
I'm anxious all the time.
I think just the overall pressure to do very well in a lot of different categories.
Homework.
For AP classes, for honors and all that.
Once that test comes in front of me, everything blanks and I'm like, oh gosh.
Reading out loud in class. Getting ready for college.
Did you get in? Have you sent the things? And
Accumulates, it's just stress. These relationships can cause a lot of anxiety.
Making friends.
Relationships with parents.
social media, I blame myself too. We put the best parts of ourselves on social media. And if you spend like a lot of time like looking at that and kind of indoctrinating yourself that that's like how life is, then you kind of blame yourself for a lot of the bad things that happen.
Well, like a lot of people were very competitive with each other.
You want to have this certain body or you want to have this certain amount of money.
Growing up, I definitely didn't have a lot of the things that I wanted. You know, like the things that I wore or even like school supplies.
I was like up all night trying to think, is this the right thing to wear? Like, what do freshmen wear?
Yeah, so a lot of anxiousness in our young people today. And I think that filters down into our children also, right? We certainly have a mental health crisis in our country. And it truly is a crisis in so many ways. And I'm going to just share a few. I don't want to overwhelm us with numbers today because sometimes that just kind of, we begin to kind of close in on those numbers too much. But we will share just a few. Number of teens and young adults with clinical depression continues to rise, right? More than doubled between those 10 years. 10 years is a short span of time, by the way, when it comes to these types of statistics, right? Suicide rate being up for young children from 10 to 14 in this case, tripled, and quadrupled for girls. And so it's a lot when it comes to the mental health crisis. And of course, the pandemic, I really believe, so the pandemic impacted two groups of people the most. It impacted the oldest generations or oldest people in our country because of their physical health. And we lost too many of them during that time. But then I think it impacted our youngest generation the most emotionally. And so they have suffered greatly when it comes to the impacts of the pandemic. In a season where they should be together and to learn and grow and play together, that they were not able to do that for a period of time. So 60% of teen girls report being persistently sad or hopeless. 60%. I mean, that's a lot, right? 10% of girls report having attempted suicide, which for girls to have 10% of the girls to have attempted suicide is, again, quadrupling that number to actually having a plan and attempting that plan, right? And 60% of young people say adults. And this, to me, is the scariest statistic of them all. Is that 60% of young people say that adults don't know how much they're struggling. Which means for us as adults and as parents that they're not really saying what they're feeling. And when they're not saying what they're feeling or experiencing, that's when we begin to be concerned. All right. In this New York Times article 3 decades ago, the gravest public health threats to teenagers in the U.S. came from drinking and driving, teenage pregnancy, and smoking, right? Those are things that we told our kids to not do, or you were told to not do as you were growing up, right? And those numbers have plummeted in recent years. So no longer are we necessarily worried about drinking too much, or not that that doesn't happen, by the way, but just numerically, we're not as worried about those things because those numbers have dropped sharply. But they've been replaced by this new public health concern, soaring rates of mental health disorders. So anxious is one word to describe our younger generation. The next one is adaptive. Adaptive, as they adjust with creativity and agility to the new needs of the opportunities that they face. Like the world literally is in front of them and also in their pockets, right? If you have a teenager and your teenager has, mine is down there, but if they have a smartphone, then the world literally is in their pocket. All right? So but they're adaptive in so many ways. Whatever you might think about social media and whatever you might think about TikTok specifically, it is a place where teenagers go to show off their creativity. Now, they might encounter a lot of other stuff while they are there, which we should be concerned about. But it also is a place of opportunities for them to express their creativity and express who they are as an individual. Gaming is very different today. I don't know about you, but it's no longer Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. Those days have long passed us, right? Gaming now is a social activity. Right? They're playing with their friends. Now, the scary part might be that they're playing with people that we may not know, right? With people all across the world who might have, poor intentions, but generally they're playing with their friends from school, whoever that might be, and it's interactive, it's social, it's mobile, it's all of that. And then we have AI. AI is, who knows what AI is going to become. AI is very helpful in a lot of ways, but AI can also, used inappropriately, can be dangerous, right? So it has its upsides and it has its downside, but for sure, our young people are going to be a part of it. Our young people are going to utilize it. They're going to be building it. And we need to be paying attention, right? But this is where they're adaptive. that they can change with the times. And then they're also adaptive in a different way. They're having to be for many, maybe not so much of the children in this church or maybe even in this nearby surrounding community, but we know that there are places not too far from here where we know that there's a lot of poverty. And to say in the U.S. today that 1 in 3 children grow up in poverty is pretty heavy, right? That they are having to be adaptive because they're growing up in a time and in a situation where they're living in poverty and they're having struggles at home. Parents are having struggles at home. And then so it's anxious, adaptive, and then diverse. Diverse is the third word for us today. And diverse can really mean a couple of things in what we want to point out. One is our children or our young people generally are facing ethnically diverse communities, right? We know that in 2020 in the U.S., half of kids under 18 are kids of color. So we passed that mark, all right, in the U.S. And it is projected by the Census Bureau by 2055 that there will not be a single racial or ethnic majority in the U.S. However that might come across to you, for young people, that's just going to be the reality that they grow up in, right? And so, they're ethnically diverse as far as a generation of kids that we see. And then they're also religiously diverse. Religiously diverse. We know that the group called the nuns, N-O-N-E-S, not our Catholic sisters, but our nuns continue to rise in the U.S. Those that are religiously unaffiliated. Those that do not connect with any type of religion. 42% of our young adults, so kind of our Gen Zers, older Gen Zers, would say that they are religiously unaffiliated. Now, that number is way too high. That number has continued to climb in the U.S., unfortunately. Now, there is some inclination or indication, I guess, that number is starting to decline or flatten out just a little bit. And we're actually seeing, hopefully, what might be a revival. We're praying for that revival to happen in that generation. And we really believe that Gen Z and Gen Alpha will be a couple of generations where faith and their relationship with God will really grow and be a part of their who they are as a group of people. But for now, what we see is that 42% of young adults are religiously unaffiliated, and that's a lot. By 2070, we'll see that the Christians will make up less than half of the U.S. population. So for the U.S., that's a significant decline for the country. And it is somewhat generational. I will say that our oldest generation, if you talk to our oldest generation, one out of, let's say 80% or 81% of our oldest silent generation would consider themselves as Christians. That number drops down to about 75% of boomers would say that they are Christians. Now, they identify themselves as Christians. How they live that out, sometimes we don't measure, or this study didn't measure, but at least self-identification are these numbers. So 81%, 75%. All right, Gen Xers we don't really care about, so we'll go down to the millennials. millennials actually do drop down to kind of in the 60s, 60-something. And then Gen Z will drop into the 49% at this point in time, right? And then Gen Alpha, so those numbers will continue to decline. But that decline has occurred from years ago. And then we're just kind of on this consistent trajectory downward as a country. And the interesting thing that we're finding, this is a side note is that there are more kind of young adult men who are coming back to the church than there are women coming back to the church. We don't quite know why that's happening, but there are more young men who are seeking faith, asking questions about faith, and coming back to local congregations. I have kind of maybe a little bit of a hunch that it likely is that all the scandals that have happened in the churches across the country have made women feel less safe at church than for the guys. Is at least a little bit of a hunch of why that's happening, but the fact of the matter is that is what we're kind of seeing numerically. Daniel Cox, in his book, America's Coming Religious Divide, says young adults today are more likely to know an atheist than an evangelical Christian. So it may be a little bit different in the South, right? In the Bible Belt, like North Carolina and Alabama, those numbers are different than maybe in the Northeast or Pacific West. But certainly, it is something that we're seeing across the country. So anxious, adaptive, and diverse are three words to describe our young people. And young people in a report by Barna would say they feel this pressure to be successful. They also feel this need to be perfect. And then the third one is that they feel judged by the older generation, right? That's always happened. Like, older generations always kind of look down on the kids, right? I mean, we all faced it. Our grandparents did that to us, and our parents did that to us, and that. But what's happened is that now there's a relational divide that's the greatest that we've seen in in history of our country, of the older generation not knowing and not having relationships with the younger generations. And with that relational divide, that makes it even more difficult to hear older generations talk poorly of the younger generation, right? And we hear that all the time, don't we? Right? And so there is a little bit of difference. And here's the thing that we know 13 to 25-year-olds would say 85% don't trust religion, like organized religion, and 40% of them say that they've been harmed in some way. Now, how harmed, what constitutes being harmed, we don't quite know, but certainly what they put on a survey or feel like that they have expressed is that they have felt some church hurt in some kind of way. So for young people, everything seems to have changed. And for the next decade, every child or teenager in the church will certainly be a pandemic-impacted kid, right? The pandemic did impact and change the experience for our young people. And so we need to do, so what are we to do with that? What do we do with that now? All right? And what we know is that young people have many questions. Some of you may have kids that are inquisitive. They're asking, especially if they're little, they're asking lots of questions. And then they get to be a teenager. They may not ask so many questions to you as parents, but they may be asking those questions to their peers, to the internet, to AI, whoever it might be, but they have lots of questions. In our research, one young person said this to us: I wish the church would stop giving me answers to questions I'm not asking. That one hurt when we heard that, right? That one hurt. We sometimes think that we know what they need to know, and we impart that on them. And maybe what this young person really was saying is, I wish people would listen or ask questions more than tell me what I need to do or what I need to believe. And this study that was done by Springtide Research Institute also says that, some of this is a little bit scary. I don't want to be told the answers. I want to figure it out for myself. I don't know that that's all good, but that is what they say. And then 54% would say, hey, religious communities try to fix problems rather than just being there for me. And I think that's a number that we need to be paying attention to. And that's the sense that we need to be paying attention to is, why do they feel like we aren't there for them? All right? And what we find is that young people are asking questions, but there are three big questions that we feel at Fuller Youth Institute that they're asking that is really undergirding all the different questions that they might have. And these questions are around the questions of identity. Who am I? Like, who am I? Question of belonging. Where do I fit? And a question of purpose. And what difference can I make? Now, these aren't just young people's questions, right? These are human questions. These are questions that we're all asking, no matter what stage of life we might be in. These are questions that we ask ourselves. But for us as adults, we have enough tools in our tool belt to process these questions in the back of our minds mostly. That we can go through the day and be asking these questions in our minds and process them as we go along. But for young people, it's always right in front of them. Our executive director, Kara would say that for young people, this is like water boiling on the stove top, right? It's always at a boil, right? It's always the questions that are being asked of them, and they are asking of themselves. Because what do we do when we meet a high schooler? Hey, where do you want to go to school? What do you want to major in? What do you want to be when you grow up? I'm 51. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? We're all asking these types of questions, but yet for young people, it's always right in front of them. And what we know is that these three questions aren't three separate questions. These are questions that overlap with one another. That these are questions that are part of their lives and our lives together. And what we know is that these questions are everywhere in our culture. How many of you are Harry Potter fans? If you're Harry Potter fans, you know that these questions of who am I, where do I fit, what difference can I make are throughout the series in that story, right? We know that if you are a Disney fan, Shang-Chi is a film that was done by Disney, and it's all about identity, belonging, and purpose. Encanto, another one, right? Every character in that story, in that film, is asking the questions of who am I, where do I fit, and what difference can I make? Yes, and even Barbie is asking those three questions, right? So it's all around us. You can't escape it. Now that you know, you're going to see it everywhere, so you're welcome, right? You're going to see it everywhere. Again, who am I? It's this focus on identity, our view of ourselves. Who are we, right? Where do I fit? Belonging, our connections with others, and what difference can I make? Or purpose, our contribution to the world. Like, who are we, and what are we going to contribute to the world? All right? And so through our research, we have created a couple of resources that I actually do have with me at the table that was mentioned beforehand. 2 books, 3 big questions that change every teenager, specifically in this case. That's a book that we have, and it really talks about these 3 questions more in depth than I'm going to be sharing here. And then 3 questions that shape your future is actually a devotional for young people, for teenagers, for older kids. So if they're in like 4th preteen area or teenagers, that this is a book. It's a devotional book that can be helpful. So it's 60 devotions that's in the book, 20 devotions for each of those questions around identity, belonging, and purpose. So identity, and so I'm going to go a little fast through this because I realize that we are coming to a time in which we need to move forward. So identity. Hey, what young people have told us is that they say, hey, I am what others expect me to be. I am what others expect me to be, right? And sometimes these expectations conflict with one another. Rebecca would say, I really, really, really cared about what other people thought, and therefore I am what they expect me to be. But then Claudia in our research would say, and these are not real names, we gave them fake names. It's a really tiring going between my friend groups at school because it's just so exhausting because her friend group was different each time. They would also tell us that I am not fill in the blank enough. And they have this sense of I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not smart enough. And for racial diverse kids, I'm not black enough, I'm not Asian enough, I'm not whatever enough. And they would tell us that, right? And so this sense of, and I'm going to actually skip this video because I'm just going to keep going, all right? And it says that this video would say that one young person would say, I'm just showing you who I am. In terms of, hey, there's different layers to me, right? The question of who am I, it's not just one answer, but there's different layers of that answer. And we often tell our young people, hey, just be yourself. How do you think that comes across to a young person who has no idea what it means to be themselves because they're just starting to figure out, who am I? They're asking this question, right? And so when we tell them, be yourself, they're like, I don't know what that is. And for them, what they want to be is to be their best self, right? And what that means for them, they want to be their best selves. But sometimes that's really, really hard when they're asking the question, who am I? So identity, belonging. The sense of belonging is real, and especially after the pandemic for young people, a sense of belonging is so important, right? Belonging, and we all have stories of not belonging. I'm guessing if we had time, every one of us can give a testimony of a time in which you did not feel like you belonged somewhere. Right? Every one of us. For me, it was somehow landing in a small town 30 miles below Raleigh in 1981 as the first immigrant kid in that community. There was no one that looked like me in that small town in North Carolina. Me and my brothers, we were the very first ESL kids in the school system. They had no idea what to do with us, right? I learned English, all the words that I should say, by flashcards sitting in the corner with the teacher assistant. Thousands of flashcards, time and time again. I learned all the words not to say on the playground with my friends, as it does happen, right? But it was a sense of just being in a new place, being an immigrant kid, no one else looking like me, and I just remember growing up as a elementary school kid into middle school and even into high school, just wanting to have blonde hair and blue eyes so I can be like my friends, so I can fit in. Now I just wish I have hair, like I did back then. See, I did have hair, by the way. Yeah, I just remember not fitting in and wanting to be like every other kid. All right? And not belonging is a big deal. Not belonging is a big deal for our young people. And that's why, Joel, I'm sure it doesn't happen in this church. But in a lot of churches that I'm in, teenagers won't sign up for a retreat until they know what? Like, who else is going, right? Because if they don't feel like they belong, they're not going to show up. Like, they're not going to go. They're not going to want to go unless you kick them out the door and you make them go, right? Which, by the way, you should. You're welcome, Joel. So, what young people have told us is that I fit when I feel safe to be me, right? When they feel safe to be who they think that they are in that moment, right? And then they also shared with us, I fit when we share a common experience. So whether it's a volleyball team or basketball team or football, whatever sports or band or drama, whatever it might be, that they feel like they fit if they have a shared activity. But 1 in 3 young people feel invisible in their church, is what they told us through this research. And 1 in 2 believe that they wouldn't be missed if they left. Like, that's a sense of not belonging somewhere, right? Where they feel like, hey, they don't even know that I exist, and they won't even care if I don't ever come back. Right? There's a lot of not belonging in our young people right now. And what this young person would say that I can still be at church for her was a place of belonging. And she says, hey, I can still be myself because I know that no matter what I say, they'll still like me. But you can still see the tension that they'll still like me and the needing to be liked and fitting in. And here's what we do think is that if we give them a place to belong, they'll be more open to coming to a set of beliefs that we want them to have as followers of Jesus, as someone who's committed to the scriptures. So belonging before believing in a lot of instances for young people. And lastly, purpose. Purpose. Purpose is one of those things that is loaded in some ways, but what young people told us is that I make a difference when I'm helping others. This is our Gen Zers and our Gen Alphas. They're a helpful generation. They want to serve other people, and that's great. We want to continue to cultivate that in our young people. Sebastian, in this case, says that my church gives me tasks that they wouldn't give most 17-year-olds, and that he is really involved in his church. And so I make a difference when I'm helping others, which is good, but then they turn around and they tell us that I also make a difference when I follow the script. When I follow the script that's been given by my parents, follow the script that was given by my teachers or my coaches or my adults at church or whoever it might be. And this statement breaks my heart here. This young lady would say, I have a career in mind that I want to go, I want to do, but I don't know if that's what God wants for me. And what if I pursue it and ends up not being what God's best for me? That I'll have spent 4 years of studying something only to scrap it and start all over. And I've always been told that our purpose as humans is to advance God's kingdom, and I want to do that, but I'm stressed because I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. Can you feel the anxiety in her statement there? Like, she kind of thinks that she knows what to do when she's in college because we're always asking her, right? But she's second-guessing herself because, what if it's not what God's best is for me? And then I'm just have wasted these 4 years and like, how was a 17 or 18-year-old supposed to know what that might be, right? And so you can kind of see, I just want to pull this young lady aside and say, look, God's going to use you wherever you go. And God's going to use you whatever field you choose. That you don't have to kind of put that kind of pressure on yourself when it comes to your purpose. So what do we do? So here's some practical things that we're going to get to here. Practically, we want to help young people explore better answers. So whether they're in grade school right now or whether they're in their middle school or high school, we want to help them explore better answers. And by better answers, we mean we want to help them to move from their current narratives, the narratives that they've been telling us about, like, I'm not enough, or I don't fit in, or I don't, I don't know what God's best is for me. We want them to move from their current answers to Christ-centered answers. Christ-centered answers. And what do we mean by Christ-centered answers? We mean that in Christ, we know that we're enough, not because of what we do or what we accomplish, but we're enough because of Jesus, what Jesus has already done. That we're enough because of that, right? We want them to move from their current narratives to Christ-centered answers of belonging, that we belong with God's people. We belong in community, not just the church, but we belong with God's people, whether that's extended family, friends, other people in the community. But we belong with God's people. And then what difference can I make? The Christ-centered narrative is, hey, I'm invited into this big, grand story of God's, to build God's kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. That we get to play a part in that we are invited into God's narrative of building God's kingdom. And so we help them to move from this idea of, I'm just following a script, into being active in the story that God is writing right now. And sometimes we need to just be asking, hey, what's the good news? What's really the good news for this young person? What for this grade schooler or for this teenager right now? Because it's not just a generic answer, because every one of our young people are asking one of those three questions, and they typically have a leading question for them, whether it's figuring out who they are or where they belong or what difference they can make. One of them is really kind of the driving question for them, and the other two are supporting questions. And my guess is that you know, as you're hearing this, the question that your young person is asking. I want to show this video. I know we're running out of time, but I want to show this video because it helps us to hear the voices of young people.
We believe that we are enough because God has made us enough, that we don't have to live up to some standard or be perfect or whatever. We are enough because Jesus has made us enough.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about that.
I definitely agree with that.
I love that idea. Actually, it's a really positive idea. It's nice, yeah.
I feel like everyone is enough. And I feel like some people aren't told that enough.
Do you feel like young people generally feel that way, or do you feel like they kind of struggle with feeling like whether or not they live up to being enough?
I know a lot of people who struggle with it.
I've had struggling to find my identity. I've seen another person, if only I just looked like them, or like sometimes even imagined that I did, or thought of things that I could do to look like them instead of thinking about how I really was made and how I am.
All the people in your school that have like so many friends and are known, sometimes I doubt myself and I think like, well, they're enough.
I mean, I know I'm enough in like God's eyes and stuff, but I feel like sometimes like when I go to school or something, like I don't feel like I'm enough. But that's just because of like society's point of views. Like they tell you that you're not enough because of these things, and then you like try to go fix those things, but then you also have to. But then like after you fix those things, you realize, oh, I was enough before that.
I know some people who, along the way, like they went through some pretty tough things, and I remember them telling me how they feel like they're not worth like all this stuff.
I think it's like a really powerful statement to like say that you are enough, because like Jesus made us perfect to his standards, and we are enough.
I've always been told that you come from royalty, you are great, that I am enough. No matter what mistakes that I make, whatever happens down the line or along the way, I will always be enough, and I will always be accepted and loved. I am enough.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I am enough. You are enough, no matter what.
I am enough. I am enough.
How did that feel to say that?
That felt relieving, like all the relief off my shoulders, knowing that I am enough.
Let's face it, we might need to hear that today, right? You as a parent might need to hear that hey, you're enough. You're enough. And that your children need to see that you believe that you're enough because of Jesus. That your self-doubt, that your questions, that you're enough in spite of those things. And for young people, they need to hear that time and time again. So if this is the only thing that you take away, and that you go home and you tell your kids that, hey, no matter what, because of Jesus, you're enough, then I think it's worth the price of admission for today. Really. Right? You're enough, because Jesus makes you more than enough. Because let's face it, when was the last time that you revisited these three questions? And we're going to do that in the small groups in just a few minutes. You're going to revisit these questions as an adult and what that means. But before we do that, I just have a few more things that I want to share. Practice better conversations at home. Practice better conversations. I know this is really hard, but stop trying to fix everything. Right? It's really hard, but maybe it isn't our job. I really think the thing that our younger generation struggle the most right now is learning how to fail. I really believe that. We see it throughout the culture. They don't know how to fail not because they don't fail, it's because of what? Us as parents step in before they fail. Now, I'm not asking you to stay away if they're making a life-changing mistake. I'm not saying that. But maybe there are moments where we need to teach them how to fail and then dust themselves off, get back up, and keep going. keep going, right? So we don't have to fix everything for them. Remember what they told us, 54%, that churches try to fix my problem instead of just being there for me. And maybe even as parents, we just need to be there for them to pick them up. Because here's what they told us, is that doubt is a part of their faith journey, right? They have questions. They have lots of questions. They have lots of doubts. 70% of the young people told us that they have doubts and they have nowhere to go with those doubts, right? 100% of kids have doubts. 100% of us in this room have doubts. Maybe we have a safe place to go to express those doubts. And hopefully it's the church. And as church, that it is something that we should pay attention to. Because we believe that it's not doubt that's toxic to faith, it's silence. That if they don't have a place to go to express those doubts, to ask those questions, then that will not allow them to grow in their faith. So real practically, these are 3 things that we say to consider in this section. Think about the word now. Listen for what God's doing now. Listen to what's going on now. So listening to your kids. So think about, okay, what are they saying? What are they really saying? And oftentimes it's the question underneath the question, right? It's that something that is underneath that initial question that they're really trying to ask, but they're measuring the temperature of how you're going to react. All right? So listen for what's really going on. And then ask God, hey, discern with God, what's my child going through? Wondering and discerning and asking God to give you help. And then the how. It's not about fixing it for them. It's not about getting them from point A to point Z, but it's really taking the next faithful step for them. Help them to take the next faithful step, a step forward. And then lastly here, in this case, is connect them with caring adults. Connect them with caring adults. And it's the essence of the church, right? What if the church became the community where all of us could bring our questions? Instead of putting on our Sunday best and acting like everything is all right, because we know it isn't, what if church became the place where we could be ourselves and bring our questions and our doubts? My wife passed away last September after a battle with cancer. And I can't tell you that I would be able to stand here today without my church. The faith community who stepped in, who supported, who encouraged, who brought more food than one person could eat, as Baptist churches do, right? And I got to show up when I'm sad, when I'm struggling. And I got to show up when I was doing okay. And people understood. We should all be able to do that, right? That church should be a place where we can just show up and bring our biggest questions. So for our young people, here's what we know from Sticky Faith research, and that continues to reveal to us that our young people need a 5-to-1 ratio. 5-to-1 ratio, meaning that they need at least 5 caring Christian adults outside their parents who invest in them relationally, who they can trust. And if they have that, then their faith is more likely to grow. In a separate Springtide research, they found that if they had at least 5 or more trusted adults, so that's the orange there, you can see the difference that it makes, right? 5-to-1, 5 caring Christian adults. So parents, here's what you need to do. Parents, go home and ask your kids, hey, you can come to me with anything. You can come to me and your mom or your dad, and you can come to me with anything that you're going through. But if you can't, for whatever reason, do you have at least 5 other adults who you could go to, that you trust? And ask them to name the names. And it could be a person at this church. It could be a parent of one of their friends. It could be a coach or a teacher or whoever it might be. But what we're trying to do is surround them with caring Christian adults. Christian is an important part. Caring Christian adults, right? So we're trying to surround them with that. And so if they don't, if they say, hey, I've got these 3 names, but they can't name 2 more, and then your follow-up question as parents is, hey, who's someone that you would like to get to know better? Who's an adult that you look up to? And ask them, hey, who that is. And if that's someone that you know, or even if it's someone that you don't know, but you at least know of them, your next conversation is, see him at church, see him wherever, or pick up the phone and you say, hey, I've been talking to my kid, and what I want to ensure is that they have enough adults in their lives that they trust. And they say that they really look up to you for whatever the reason might be, and then you ask, hey, I'm wondering, would you be willing to spend a little extra time with my kid? Would you be willing to take my kid, out for coffee if they're a teenager, or a soda for whatever for kids? But would you spend a little extra time? How many of you, if someone came to you and told you that and asked you to spend a little extra time with someone else's kid, how many of you said, nah, I'm good. I don't have time. Sorry. Right? None of us would ever do that. None of us would say, no, I don't have time. Right? We need each other to help raise our kids, right? To support our kids, and to help them to know that they are loved and cared for. All right, we are out of time. This is where I will end, is that if you want to continue to learn more about this or get our continued resources and research and information, we're currently working on a Gen Alpha, a national Gen Alpha research right now. So we're trying to study some of the younger teenagers. And so we'll be releasing some of that information as the new year comes around. But the thing about research is it just takes time. It just takes time. But if you would like to do that, you can scan that code and you can sign up for our newsletter, and it'll come to you once or twice a week. And we'd love to share some of our information. But I'll be around, and then next time we'll talk a little bit about how do we journey with our kids in the different stages of life. But I'll turn it back over to Joel.
Will you join me this morning in just showing our appreciation for Andy being here? All right, we are going to try to stay on schedule this morning. We're a little off. That's okay. There is grace, thank the Lord. Here is what I need you to do. On your name tag at the bottom, there should be a group number. That's how you know what room you're going to, okay? There's a handout that you should have gotten when you registered that tells you what room number to go to for your group. If you haven't registered yet, please go by that table outside. You'll get a lanyard. You'll get a little handout that says, here's where you're supposed to go next, okay? And these peer groups, right? This is a collective. Everyone in this room is here for a reason. You have a perspective on parenting that other people might not share. And this is a place where we all bring something to the table. So these are participatory groups. We want you to work out some of the things that Andy just said, and we want you to think about your students and your kids and where you're at in life with other people who are in the same boat. Who knows? Your 5 caring adults could be sitting in that peer group with you. They could be there with you. The rest of the day, don't forget we have snacks in Hudson Hall, so you can swing by there on your way to your peer group. We're going to have a little snack time later, so if you don't get a snack now, that's okay. They'll still be there. And then make sure you check out the Fuller Institute table that we have in Hudson Hall as well. He's brought some resource with him. And Andy, those are for sale. Okay, great. And we'll have those. We'll have somebody there to man the table to receive money as you make your way through the day. Okay, so we're going to dismiss now to peer group session 1. So please make your way to the room. The 3rd and 4th hallway are to your right as you exit the room. So have a great peer session.